Hey, I'm Grant Babbitt.
And I'm Steven Farnsworth.
And you're listening to It's a Dad Thing podcast. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of It's a Dad Thing podcast. I'm Grant Babbitt, and this is
Steven Farnsworth.
Yep, that's him. Hey,
That's
Steven, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I am doing a lot better than last week. I know last week was a tough episode. If any of you guys did not listen to it, I don't blame you. It is a tough episode to get through. We were talking about dealing with death and loss. I specifically had lost my pet, lost my dog that I've had for 15 years. We are still rough around the house a little bit, but easier to get out of the house. It's better. We're doing okay, and I'm ready to have a more fun episode today than we did last week. So yeah. So I got to ask you though, you're in Detroit. Right. Mm-hmm. If any of you guys don't remember, if this is the first episode you're picking up on, Steven is in Detroit. I am in Los Angeles. We normally do the show in Los Angeles, although I can't say that anymore because now 50% of it has been done via
yes, the majority.
Like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, welcome to the podcast. And Steven, how's Detroit, man?
We're about to get a lot of snow dumped on us, which is actually kind of exciting because all it's been is just cold. And then you walk outside and there's like no snow. And I'm like, I'm not okay with this. If it's going to be 15 degrees outside, can we at least have some snow so that I can drive around on it and really, try to do some donuts or something.
So are you getting like the cold wind too, or just, is it just cold? Is it cold? Okay. So it's cold.
Yeah.
And
it's like 15 degrees, feels like 4, kind of stuff.
Well, for that occasion, for that winter you're dealing with, I wore my nice tropical warm weather shirt, and I've got my shorts on because it is feeling good here. We've had some cold LA days.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you have.
Don't give me that. You live here. You know what I'm talking about. Don't do this. But yes, it's finally up to that nice LA weather everybody talks about. It's finally there. So I'm excited. It feels nice, and then pretty soon it'll be 100 degrees and I don't like it anymore, but exactly. I'm going to enjoy it now. Yeah, it's good.
Well, and one thing I wanted to mention is on the last episode, you were actually correct and that the Detroit Tigers play at Comerica Park. I looked it up and you are correct.
You know what? I know. I have been holding on to that. Even when we talked a few minutes ago, we were getting ready. I was like, no, I'm going to save this for the podcast. I'm going to tell you I know. Yes, I knew I wasn't crazy. I mean, I didn't get Metrodome right, but I still don't know. Like, was it Metrodome before it was Ford Field? I don't know. So probably wrong in that. But
that feels wrong.
Something I was like, I went back and I kind of listened to it and I was like, Comerica Park? Oh, yeah, maybe I'm crazy. No, it's you. You're crazy.
I was crazy.
I was expecting to go outside and just see like, oh, yeah, that's Comerica Park. Ah, crap.
It's because I'm not as big of a baseball fan as I am football or basketball. And speaking about football, we have the XFL. How have you been following it? I feel like you have been pretty diehard following it.
So I mean, of our favorite sports, right? I know you're huge into basketball. Basketball is your number one, right?
Yep, number one.
Okay, so for me, football is my number one. Mm-hmm. And I can't say that I was looking forward to the offseason because my Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I mean, I know I touched on it last week, but go Chiefs, right? I honestly, the Chiefs, the Super Bowl happened, and the very next day, I was working nonstop on this movie, and I didn't get to stop. As soon as I got done with the movie, then I'm working on another project, and then after that, then my dog passed away, and it was like I haven't had a chance to actually celebrate. Yeah, I haven't celebrated the Super Bowl, so like I feel like I need to deck out in my Chiefs gear and like just go out and just like run in the street and it's like, yeah, and people are like, dude, you are so late to the party.
Right.
But for me, right, they hadn't been since Super Bowl IV.
Yeah.
So it's such a big deal. And honestly, last year when we were like 1 or 2 plays away from going to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It was so heartbreaking. And I thought, I mean, first of all, Chiefs Rams, that would have been an awesome Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, it
Because
really would have.
there was no defense at that point. So
Yeah, everybody loves that game.
yeah, it would have been that game all over again. Maybe not 50 points each, probably like 40 points, but who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have actually, even though I'm looking forward to XFL and like watching more games, I'm still trying to enjoy what happened with the Chiefs. That being said, though, very stoked for the XFL. Did you watch the XFL the first time it came out, like in the early?
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was, like, oh my God, you can just hit him on the punt. There was no like fair catch. That was like what I remember mostly about the XFL.
Really, of all the things, it was at.
And then there was like He Hate Me, and those guys were playing, and it was just like nonstop, like it was like the physical manifestation of like the video game Blitz. I don't know if you ever watched that, where it was like,
yeah, I know Blitz.
Or ever played that.
Yeah, I knew Blitz, but you know what I compared it to is the movie Basketball.
Okay.
I loved basketball, and XFL, it wasn't quite as like funny, but it was like that kind of like show spectacle, which
Sure.
Basketball, if you guys don't know, it was a movie with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. If you get a chance to watch it and you haven't seen it, oh, please watch it. I still quote it so much to this day. But I can't watch it around the house because the kids. So like I actually gotta pop it in again and watch it. But yeah, the XFL, the original XFL reminded me of that. And you know, what's funny is like football, how we know it now, like the NFL, for instance, steady cams and like having guys on the field running up and down the field with steady cams, that came from the XFL the first time around.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many different, like all these crazy techniques and stuff they're using with the camera. And I mean,
Right.
now with the new iteration of XFL, I don't know if you've got a chance to watch many games or anything, but I watched a game and not just the refs are mic'd, which is kind of interesting because you actually get to see the refs huddle up.
Mhm.
And when they say like, hey, was that pass interference? Was this whatever? And they're talking about it. You get to hear that part.
Oh,
You hear it on
nice.
the TV. You don't hear it in the stadium, obviously, but you hear it on the TV. And then the other thing that's really crazy to me is that you hear, like, not every time, but they mic up the coaches. So the coaches are calling the plays, and we are in their feed. So we're
Wow.
hearing what's happening in the helmet.
Yeah.
Which is insane when you really think about it, because they put so much into, like, this is this play, this is that play. Like, you don't want to give them a tell, right?
Right.
And so that part is just fascinating to me. And I think what they're doing with the XFL now is, I think the NFL is going to end up probably taking a few things soon again, because even though, yes, there's a lot of physicality, and I love that physicality of football, they're very concerned about safety too.
Right.
I mean, like, it's a big deal. So I love what they're doing. I, of course, wish there was more teams, but I love how they have it set up where there's 4 games a week.
Mhm.
I mean, like every weekend, there's 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. You can sit and watch every game from every team
Right.
if you want to.
Yep.
And I'm kind of waiting for like XFL fantasy football to come out, and then maybe like XFL the video game. Like, I'm kind of excited for it. I'm not as excited for the LA Wildcats. I think that's the most generic name out there, and I wish it was more inventive.
Sure.
But I mean, Seattle is like I don't know. I can't remember if they're Sea Dragons or the Dragons, but like Houston Roughnecks. I mean,
yeah.
There's so many like these cool, unique names.
It's like, come up with something better than like the Bears or the Wildcats. It's like, come on, guys.
Well, something that's like to LA. I've never seen a Wildcat in LA. I have seen bears in LA.
I've seen coyotes a lot.
I've seen coyotes. That is oddly more inventive, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. But yes, I'm a fan of the XFL so far.
Good. I think it's got a chance. I think it's got a chance, even if it's a chance to disrupt the NFL and then probably like get bought out by them or something to where, a bunch of people make money. But I think it has a disruptive force that it seems to be making.
So I got to ask you though, what about, because I know the XFL this year is different than the original XFL, but last year, if you remember the AAF, the American, now I forget what it is already, but the AAF was, like, to me, I liked watching the AAF as well, and I'm a big football fan. So you put football in front of me, you put
Sure.
CFL in front of me, like I'm going to watch it. I love it. But I was a fan of the AAF. I loved what they were doing. Of course, I wish they would have done things differently so it would have continued. But I will say the one thing that I really liked about the AAF, aside from, they did different salary stuff and whatever else, but the thing that I really liked as a fan was that there was their app. You could actually sit and watch a game and you could predict what play was next. And they would actually show you what's happening right there on your phone.
Wow.
So you honestly didn't actually have to be sitting and watching the game. You could see what's happening.
Yeah.
But it was just like little things, and it didn't mean anything. They were just like fan points. But you could say, okay, if the play is a run or a pass, you get a point, right? But if the play is a run and it's a run to the right, you get a point plus another point. If it's a run to the right and it's outside the tackles, then it's another point.
Wow.
And it was like this kind of like cool fan thing. And, I pride myself on being such a football, aficionado that like, I think, I know what play they're going to do next, or I know what defensive stand or whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, I love that part of it as a fan. And I wish that could be integrated because it was so much fun. But yeah, like rest in peace, the AF. Oh, I wish you're still around. But luckily we have the XFL and it's a lot of fun.
More football.
Yeah. Now we're talking draft. I mean,
yeah, it's just year round now. Now you got year round. I mean, it's like even taking over. I mean, what's the big thing that always comes up in March Madness? I mean, it's like, it's over. There's like so much consumption now happening, but
right. March Madness.
But I think it makes it a lot of fun because March Madness has not been quite as great over the last 5 years or so since like maybe a little bit longer since the one and dones. It feels like that there's not quite as much magic as there was
no, hold on.
A while back.
Hold on. Have you been watching?
Yes, I have. And it definitely has like the normal stuff, but it just feels like what I miss is that being able to root for a team for multiple years. Okay. So being able to, like, for instance, a Kansas. And then you have
every year. I don't know what the problem is.
But I mean, you could root for a player or basically a group of players to be like, hey, you know what? They made it to this, Final 32, Sweet 16 this year, but they're probably gonna do much better because they're all going to be juniors or seniors next year. I think they got a good shot at the Final Four, stuff like that. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like every year we kind of just scrap anything that happened last year and you kind of have to restart. I think that's what I'm missing. Okay.
Although, now hold on, because part of me wants to know, like, are you saying that as an Oklahoma fan? But I mean, I guess you're trying to say as a fan of all the teams, the field, right?
The field, yeah.
Now, because I think what's the last like real great Oklahoma player was like Buddy Hield?
Buddy Hield, Trae Young.
Oh, I'm spacing on Trae. He's great now, by the way. Like,
way
he's
better than I thought he was gonna be.
Well, and that's what happens. Like, I mean, look, I'm a KU fan. The year that Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid came out, like, they went 1-3 in the draft, right?
Yep.
I didn't think Andrew Wiggins was ready. And honestly, I thought Joel Embiid, if he used another year or two in college, he would have been fantastic by the time he got out. But he was still pretty new to the game at that point. And what's funny is, like, you look back now, and Andrew Wiggins was number one. Now he's with Golden State Warriors.
Yep.
But they're trying to, like, resurrect his career. I mean, he's got a big contract, but he's they're trying to, like, make him be the player that he was always supposed to be. And then look at Joel Embiid. He's one of the best players in NBA.
Yep.
And, like, who would have thought that in college? Because we only got 1 year with him.
Yep.
But that being said, I mean, over the past few years, we've got to see the 16 seed beat the 1 seed, which I wasn't sure if that would ever happen.
That's true. Yep.
Right. And I mean, I've got to see Duke lose a lot, which I love. And I mean, but really, I mean, I know what you're saying, because there's always, like, when Duke had Zion, they didn't win last year. They went out early. I can't remember who won last year. But yeah, I mean, like, Duke going out early was, even though I'm not a Duke fan, I'm a Zion Williamson fan. So I loved watching that kid play.
Yeah, for sure.
And but for instance, this year, I'm excited about this year. KU. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Big 12 basketball in general or just any NCAA basketball, but
it's been good with Baylor and KU for sure.
It has been. It's been tough too, and I will say KU has a younger team,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're talking about how you can follow a team and watch them grow. Like it is always fun to have those teams full of seniors. Like I think Texas Tech was a great example of that last year. And I
Yeah.
can't remember,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot remember their star player's name, but he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then with for instance, this year, Baylor, they've got guys that are juniors, seniors primarily in their roster, and they are like men with boys. Like I can't remember. That sounds bad. Men with boys, men among boys.
Yes.
That sounds not creepy when I say it like that.
Jeez, come on, Grant.
I'm just saying. You say it, and then you think it, you hear it, and it doesn't connect when it goes out of your mouth. Anyway, yeah, Baylor's like, I think they've got a deep run in them this year, and they're looking good. I mean, they won 23 in a row, I believe, before they lost to KU. So they're 1-2 right now. I mean, that speaks highly of Big 12 basketball. I mean, wherever you are, there is great basketball, but
yeah, for sure.
You know, I'm a huge fan of that. That's great.
Well, and I think, you know, it's fun to be able to go back and forth on all the different sports things as we kind of progress through the year, because now with the, you know, XFL and all the different things now with the draft and constant 24/7 coverage, we can talk about sports at any point, you know, and it's like every, you know, little stories you can dive into because they're being followed a lot more. So it's so much fun. The hard thing is that I will say, when you're on a road trip, it's real difficult sometimes to follow sports because you don't always have service. And that's what I ran into when we came out here in Detroit. Is just, it was like 2 days where I couldn't even like make a phone call out for big long stretches of the day.
Yeah. I mean, you also couldn't even search to see what the baseball park's name was.
That's true.
That would have been so easy with a few bars. I don't know. No big deal. Yeah, no, we're here today to talk about these extended road trips. Okay. We've all taken road trips with our families before. And sometimes they're wonderful and sometimes they're not wonderful.
Yep.
For instance, Stephen and you and I, we've talked about this before. My family, meaning now, not my family growing up, but my family now with my children, we're not as much a road trip family yet. We haven't gotten there. But you guys are road warriors at this point.
Yeah, I would consider us road warriors for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So that being said, why don't you talk to the guys? Why don't you talk to the dads out there about what it is that, I mean, we've kind of touched on it, but like, what is it that brought you to Detroit?
Yeah.
What was the decision to say, okay, I'm going to take my family with me? And what are the things that allowed you, like, for that to happen? Like,
Yeah. And I mean, so I'm in Detroit. We're working at the Henry Ford Museum, putting a new exhibit in there. The overall exhibit's called Driven to Win, putting a new theater. So that's specifically what we're working on. I'm producing the project for a company that's the overall design and creator of it. So it's going to be a really cool racing experience. If any of you guys have a chance to be in the suburbs of Detroit, it'll be up and ready at the end of May. And so,
is it NASCAR specific or is it Indy?
So it's racing in America. So we cover 5 different styles of racing.
Okay.
And primary, you know, racing styles like drag racing, NASCAR, land speed, IndyCar, and I'm trying to think. The other one's a hill climb. It's like the hill climb is like at Pikes Peak.
Gotcha.
So
do you guys, does that also include RuPaul's Drag Race?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think it's in this version.
Okay. I couldn't remember if that was a drag race. I couldn't remember how that works. So, okay. All right. Good.
Maybe that's in a future version where I don't think everybody's ready for that yet.
Oh, they're not sponsored by Ford, are they? Okay. I got you. All right. All right.
So I'm out here where I'm producing this project, and really the way that I've gotten here is Sarah and I have made an intentional decision to make our family mobile. And so we decided a few years ago to homeschool, and then also Sarah doesn't work. And so she's a mom and a teacher and all the things that go into that.
Mm-hmm.
But what that does is that allows us to travel around, that allows us to not be constrained to school times and school dates and all that kind of stuff. So that's been really helpful. And that was an intentional decision because I had a couple opportunities with work to be able to do something like this. And this was really the only way I wanted to do it. I don't want to be away from my family for 3 months and like flying back on a weekend to try to kind of enjoy 5 hours of time. So it was like, hey, we love adventure. Sarah and I, since we've been married, love traveling together. And we were like, why can't we do this with our kids? We may not homeschool forever, but this is at least the decision that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually the 3rd year in a row that we've lived somewhere pretty far from our home for at least 5 weeks. So
yeah, it kind of makes it hard to be your friend sometimes.
Well, yeah, because I mean, last year we were in Savannah, Georgia, and that was
right.
that was 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. And the year before we were in Korea when we were adopting Wesley, and we were there for 6 or 7 weeks.
Gosh, that's right. I mean, part of that feels like that was just yesterday.
Yeah,
you're right. You guys really do just kind of have. I mean, you have the freedom, right? But you've made it possible so you can have that quote unquote freedom to pick up and move and relocate somewhere as a family, be a unit, and still be able to function wherever you are. And that's awesome. I mean, that is. I know I've mentioned it before. That is one thing that like I can't fathom. I can't wrap my head around it now. But again, I know you guys have planned for it and thought it out for a long time, and I feel like you're pros now at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are much better at it the 3rd time than we are the first and second time.
Sure.
But each one has its own challenges. From hey, we're all going to be hopping on airplanes, so please don't pack 10 bags apiece, to the different climates and cities that you go to all have their own unique challenges, and the people there and the culture and all that kind of stuff. But our hope is that with doing this, that we not only expand, for Sarah and I, not only expand our own culture and awareness, but that we instill that in our kids. And it's, I mean, we're blessed to be able to have this kind of opportunity and to be able to be set up to at least take advantage of it. I mean, that being said, there are amazing times and there are not so amazing times.
I'm sure
that it would, you're like, it would be much easier if I could just hop on a plane and just go there than take my entire family across the country to live for 3 months. So.
Right. Yeah, that's I'm sure, because I can think of times when it's difficult for me just around the house to function normally, let alone, okay, now we're in this place that we don't, we're not used to necessarily. And now we have to kind of like, oh, somebody's sick. What do we do? Right. Yep. This happens. What do we do? Okay. Right. You've got to be kind of like a scavenger in a way to like make your resources, everything work. Right?
It takes a lot of effort. A lot of effort. You really have to work hard to try to make friends or some kind of connections with anybody that locally, to be able to hang out, because you still as a human need human connection. So it's not like, my family just stays home all day and just waits on pins and needles for me to come home.
Right. Yeah. I think that is how I picture it at first, is like when you said, okay, we're, I know you told me you guys are like an Airbnb or extended stay, but originally when you said you're going to do that, I'm picturing like a hotel room and it's just you guys like in a hotel room, and like, how could that possibly be comfortable for 3 months?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it is that, you have to push in order to do this. This is me pushing to say that I will work to fit something like an Airbnb into the budget that other people are doing hotels in, because my family, I can't operate in a hotel room. And so that's part of the deal. And so you do kind of have to put yourself out there. You kind of have to push a little bit to be like, I know that this is different than everybody else, but I'm going to still abide by the same rules. And it's hard, you know, I mean, when things come up and people are just hanging out, you know, on site, and they're working super long hours. I mean, I'm on my 10th day in a row working 14 hours a day. And so I didn't get to hang out with my family on the weekend, you know, so this is a difficult time, because, you know, there's some issues that we're working through on the project, and this is what it takes at this moment. But, you know, over time we've learned, okay, well then that means that I have to be even more intentional to make sure and get some time with my family, because they deserve that, you know. And but yeah, I mean, it can be wonderful, and it is a lot of the time it's wonderful. But just like parenting, there's really good times, there's really bad times, and then there's just some times that you're just, this is what it is, and people are happy, and it's not awesome or awful, but this is the way we're choosing to live. So I have a couple things that I want to throw your way as things that we've learned in these extended road trips, I would call them. And extended is really just my way of saying that it's probably more than 3 weeks. So probably more than your holiday couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of classifying it and differentiating it from like what we would normally talk about. Like, for instance, my family, we like to go back and visit our family in Kansas, but we always try to stay for at least 2, maybe 3 weeks if we can. Because we try to split up, like there's a week with this family, a week with this family, and it's never enough time. But, you know, that 2-week window is that's kind of like our largest window that we could still call a vacation, as opposed to like what you're saying is definitely like an extended stay, or it's like a work trip that you know, you're there and the family is a part of it. And, you know, again, very different than a long vacation.
Well, and these things that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is prepare activities during driving, for kids and for the adults that are going. And for these things, they're not much different than what you would do in a short trip. But the thing is that when you do a longer trip, you kind of need to think ahead. So for us, we drove out to Detroit, and it took us 6 days, you know, to drive out. But so when you know that, it's like, okay, well, like, let's make sure and get, if you know, if you have any kind of tablets, you know, the iPads, the Amazon Fires, any of the Samsung Galaxies, or any kind of tablet, it's like, okay, well, we got to make sure that those have videos on them, that they work without Wi-Fi, you know, that they have the games that we want on them, you know, because you're going to be in the car for a really long time. And not that you just hand a kid a tablet, but you do need those times that it's like, okay, guys, it's the afternoon, we need some quiet in the car. Let's do the tablet thing. And they're great. They're wonderful. And so like we even have like, so in the car that we have, it has a DVD player. So like I spent several hours over a few weeks making sure that any DVD that we had that was kid related in the house, you know, I put it in one of those little cases, you know, and it's like, hey, this is going to be so valuable on the road trip. But it's going to take me a minute of time to put all that together and do all that to have some options. I
was going to ask you if you guys had a DVD player in there for some reason, because I only picture the DVD players in minivans.
Right. Yeah.
And I know every time I think about, you know, you guys in minivans, all I hear over and over in my head is Sarah going, I'm never driving a minivan. I'm never driving a minivan. Like, that's fine. I'm pretty sure we're going to buy a second minivan. That's how much
ours is a minivan just wrapped in an SUV body. I mean,
they really all are. Right? I know. SUVs are really,
the DVD player is clutch, because then it gets the kids away from the tablet, and at least they're watching something. And then as the adult driving, you're kind of following along with the movie as well, you know, with only the audio version. It's like the audible version of it.
You know, it makes me think, well, first of all, the minivan we bought when my third child was born, we decided not to, you know, splurge and get the one with the DVD player. We just kind of went baseline model with it.
Yeah.
And we have not heard the end of it since. I mean, really, my kids are like, if we get another van, can we get a DVD player in there? Because this
kids
one
are the
doesn't.
worst sometimes.
They're the worst. But you know what? I get it. And I will say, so on the road trip front and like having entertainment, I mean, we're talking tablets now, but you know, there was a time when we didn't have tablets.
Yeah.
And there was a time when even like the DVD players in the car were a new thing. I remember in my family, my dad, I mean, I thought like dad was working magic at one point, because I remember we had like an old Dodge Caravan. I think it was like grandma's van. And I think we went from Kansas City to Colorado. And I don't know if we did like extra, but I remember it being a long trip. And maybe that's just because I was a kid and I'm like, oh,
sure.
Takes forever. But I remember my dad, like, it was the coolest thing. And I can't imagine doing it now and have my wife be like, okay, you are wasting your time setting all this up. But it was awesome for us as a kid. He had this, it was an AC/DC converter. It was like, you plug the converter into the cigarette outlet. And then it goes to the AC adapter. So then you can plug in your wall unit and you could plug in your little TV. And we had this little, like, I don't know if it was like 6-inch or 9-inch, but it was like, it was a TV. I remember it was a bright white TV. It was so awkward looking, but it had a VCR.
Oh my God, 100%.
So you could plug the VCR, but here's the cool thing about it too. Then we also had our Super Nintendo, the Super NES.
Yeah.
That we could sit there and play.
Didn't it have like the two out inputs that were on the front? Yeah. Yeah, I had a road trip like that as a kid too, where I think I had a Sega, I think, at the time.
Oh, dude, it was like the coolest thing. I will give my dad mad props on that. And I don't know that I don't know if I've ever retroactively thanked him for how cool that was. But without that, we would have gone crazy.
Well, you thought life can't get better than this. I'm playing a video game in a car.
How am I doing this?
What?
Yes. No, it was mind blowing. So yes, like to transition from that you had to do to be able to entertain yourself, other than, I think I listened to like the Simpsons soundtrack on my cassette, and it was just like, it was like Bart Simpson singing over and over again in my little Walkman. And I'm like, I could only do this for so long.
Yeah. And other things like that, besides the tablets, are apps on your phone, but that the whole family can be involved, because we have 5 people traveling all in one vehicle. And so like we use Audible. So where it's kids books, narrated, or there's really great podcasts out there.
Like
that
this
do
one.
Like this one, that do a great job. Not so much for kids, that do a great job for kids, that you can pop that in. It gives you some variety, because again, like we were traveling over 6 days, and so you kind of keep changing it up. That's the biggest thing, is like you got to keep changing it up with activities. For us, one of the biggest apps is Road Trippers app, so I highly recommend it for anybody that's traveling over more than a couple of days.
Road Trippers.
Road Trippers.
Is it Apple exclusive, or do you know if it's Apple?
It's web based, and then they also have an app, so that you can follow along. It's gotten a lot better over the years, because we've done it for a few years now. But the cool thing is that unlike Google Maps, what it is that it's like a crowd based thing, where if you go, like say you're traveling around Kansas City and you're like, hey, I saw this really cool monument or thing or museum or whatever, you can put it in as a point of interest. And then people can review it and tag it and say, oh, this is such a great place to stop for, kids ages 6 to 10 and stuff like that. And so we've been using it for a while, and you can map your whole trip out. So we mapped from LA to Detroit. And literally, like I looked back on it today to kind of see like what did it, like I know how it ended up being, but what did it look like at first? And we had essentially over 6 days, we had about 40 places that we were going to stop. And this isn't like we're going to stop at a gas station or we're going to get something to eat, although it can be like a cool restaurant. But it's like points of interest,
like world's biggest ball of yarn, kind of like.
Yes. Yeah. stuff like that, and cool museums, unique places. And so Sarah had done all this research, and for a couple of weeks before we walked through the whole trip. We said, okay, this seems like a cool thing we could go to. One of our rules on that is that when it's one of these long road trips is that we don't like driving more than 6 hours a day. So that's kind of our landmark, because what that allows you to do is that allows you to stop about every hour or two, again, not at a gas station, at some point of interest, get everybody out of the car, go take a picture. Sometimes we just literally like get out of the car, go take a picture, hop back in the car. And it's like, hey, that's our point of interest. That's our way to stretch our legs. And then other times it's, hey, we really want to visit this museum and we're going to spend probably an hour there. And so when you only drive 6 hours a day, you can make up that time pretty quickly.
So when you say 6 hours of driving, is it 6 hours of driving time, like physical driving time, or you go from 1 to 7, we're going to be on the road? And
no, 6 hours of driving. So you're driving. Usually on the road for 10 hours, I would say.
Gotcha.
You know, because you start off in the morning. We usually like leave around 8 or 9 in the morning, and then we try to get in before the kids bedtime, and then we try to book hotels that have pools. So here's another little tidbit, is if you can find hotels that have an indoor pool, they're well worth the money, because what you do is you pack swimsuits, and then everybody gets out of the car that they've been in for 10 hours and they spend 30-40 minutes in a pool going nuts, just going crazy, getting all the energy out. And then, pools naturally like wear you out. And so then the kids are ready to go to bed, because when you're in a hotel room, unless you're like doing suites or something, you're all in the same room. Right. And so you got to find a way to, just like any kid, you got to find a way to get energy out. Otherwise they're just going to be bouncing off the walls. Right. And then you're going to be like, no, we got to go to sleep right now.
Yeah. And the pools are great too, because then they can like have a bathroom break before bed and a bath all at the same time, which is fantastic.
It's like kill 2 birds, 1 stone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Road Trippers app, highly recommend. So of the 40 places that we planned on seeing, I think we only saw about 15. So
okay, that sounds about right though.
We didn't really do well.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going almost 3 miles, so you're going to have issues. Some kind of road, not hazard, but like something most likely is going to slow you down, especially when you're driving in the winter. And so we were taking a new route that was going up north through Wyoming, which we'd never been.
Okay.
And so
like Wyoming, Dakotas, and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have not been up there either, it sounds like it would be really beautiful to go through there, but I think the winter, you guys are crazy for like thinking, let's go more north when we drive wintertime to Detroit. That sounds like a great plan. I think I would have been like, no, I'm going south. We'll do that in the summertime. Yeah.
I mean, we've done the I-40 that way so many times. And Sarah and I don't know why, but we're like, we're going to do this. This is the time. We're going to do it. We're going to go north and we're going to make it happen. And so this brings me to another tip is prepare your vehicle. Okay. So make sure that you understand where you're going and what you might encounter. So for us, we're most likely going to hit snow. I mean, we're going north. It's winter. We're most likely going to hit snow. Why don't we make sure to get snow chains just on the off chance that we ever need them? And me being a dad, cheapo dad, I'm like, whatever, we don't need snow chains. Yeah. And then you get the price back and you're like, oh my God, why would I spend $150, $200 on snow chains? Like you're just like, it's the total, like, I don't need them now. I will be just fine.
I don't think I ever would have thought of snow chains because, well, first of all, I've never had to use them. And yes, I did live in Kansas, whatever, when winters. Yeah. But I never had to use snow chains before. And I think the thing I would have thought is like, oh, I need to buy a new ice scraper. Like that's the only thing that would have crossed my mind. Yeah. Like, just the ice scraper, maybe some salt. I don't know. That's about it.
So we got the snow chains.
Okay.
And thank God we did, because when you so we took the car to a mechanic, okay, like about a week before. That's another thing to remember is just take the car in. It wasn't like I heard something and it needed to go in. We just have a mechanic that we love and we say, hey, we're going on a road trip. Just do me a good once over. Let me know if there's any potential issues that you see. So we got the all clear with that, got the snow chains. We're on the road. Okay. At this point, we got the activities. We were ready to go. We're out in Wyoming. Okay. And we have this point of interest that Sarah and I both want to see. And we're running a little behind schedule, but we're like, this is totally worth it. There are these ancient cliffs where people used to, when they were going west, and not even on the big like Oregon Trail or anything, like way back when, and they used to chisel into the rock these like hieroglyphic type things.
So like the original graffiti on national parks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
way before they were even national parks or anything like that.
Okay.
They were just a cliff. But it was like a known area, so every traveler that came through there made a little notches for whatever they wanted to draw or write out. They're called the White Mountain petroglyphs. I can never remember that.
White Mountain petroglyphs. I have not even heard of those before.
Exactly. And we had only heard of them because of this Road Trippers app, but we looked it up and we looked at more than one source just to confirm this looks cool. Okay, cool. Let's go.
It's Wyoming. It's in Wyoming.
It's in Wyoming,
okay.
But it's like you're driving on the 80.
Mm-hmm.
And let me read you the directions here. Okay.
By the way, is it called, but hold on. Is it called the 80 outside of LA? Or is it 80 highway?
I-80. They call I-80.
I-80, yeah. Because okay, if any of you don't know, right, we're located in LA normally. The way he just said that was a very LA way of saying that, and I
didn't even notice it.
I know. I've been here so long that when I say like, oh yeah, the 10, the 5, the blah blah, like me when I get back in Kansas, I'm like, yeah, I-35. Like what? Why would I ever call it the 35? And hearing you say the 80, I didn't mean to throw you off, but
no, it just was like a good point.
It like triggered my brain for a second. Like, hold on, Mr. LA, like what are you doing? You can't talk like that in Detroit. Don't do that.
Okay.
Anyway, yes. Read me the directions. How's this? Yeah.
I-80.
I-80. Got it.
And remember, it's not snowing. Roads are clear. We're all good. Okay. So it says we're gonna get off this I-80. Then we're going to take this little, they call it CR 4-17 road up a ways. And then once this is like basically a 2-lane paved road. At this point, it says, and drive about 14 miles on the dirt road until you reach the White Mountain petroglyphs sign. Turn left onto the rougher dirt road and drive about 2 miles until you reach the parking lot. From there, it's about you're on foot for about 1/4 a mile.
Okay.
Until you hit the petroglyphs.
And there's no sign that's like, don't worry about this abandoned home. Don't worry about this car that no one's in anymore. Like, is there signal? Do you have signal out here?
So we turn on the road and we're like, it's all clear. We see one of those big caterpillar things right on the road, but we're like, it's all clear. And I'm driving 50, 60 miles on this dirt road. Like it's smooth. There's snow on the ground, but not on the road itself.
Okay.
And there's like maybe an inch or two. I mean, it's not a lot. So
it looks like it's been traveled.
The dirt road is completely clear.
Okay. All right.
So it's just on the, like, it's flat. So think of it as like
Texas,
this huge flat area with like some mountain ranges, but mountain ranges that look like 25, 30 miles away. So it's just like, you're just like, where is this cliff? Like we just kept driving. Like
a snowy Mad Max setting.
Yes. Where you're just like driving. And you're like, maybe they're over here. I don't know. But there's, again, 14 miles on this dirt road.
Mm-hmm.
So of course we lose signal. Google Maps like loses us at some point.
Okay.
We just keep going. We're determined to go here.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Don't turn around at this point.
We're determined.
Yeah.
So then we get to the sign that it talks about and we do our little left turn and we keep going. We're like, okay, roads are clear. It's a little rougher road, but not a big deal. We get up, and then I start hitting small little snow patches, tiny little snow patches. And we come up to this turn, and I just stop. And it's like up and to the left. And I'm like, I bet the parking lot's up there. But this road doesn't look like it's meant for a 2-wheel drive vehicle that I'm currently in.
That's basically a minivan.
So I stopped on the road, being very cautious. I get out, and I jog up there, and I'm like, this isn't it. I actually jog all the way up to the parking lot. And I'm like, okay, well, like, it's close enough that if we really wanted to see it and get a picture by the, National Park, White Mountain petroglyphs, we could do that. We just have to get the family out now. We'll take the picture. We've come this far. So I come back down, talk to Sarah. She's like, okay, we'll give it a shot. Kids, start putting on your jackets and your snowshoes. Okay, great. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to back up a little bit. Just to make sure that I'm out of any snow, because I'm like in a tiny little bit. Okay. Again, flat as far as the eye can see. And so I just back up, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm a little crooked on the road. So I turn the wheel to the left just a little bit. And apparently I turned it just enough that the road was like up a little bit. Like the dirt road was clearly like, pounded in with dirt. The vehicle just slides right off, and I'm stuck because in the sides, it's like probably 6 or 7 inches of snow. And so I push the gas just a little bit, and it goes, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
What have I done? I was trying to be so safe and like not get stuck. And so now you know me, I hardly ever have any freak out moments. And I feel like I'm fairly calm.
Okay. Okay. I'll play along. Yeah, go ahead.
I almost had a panic attack because I got out of the car and I looked over, and the tire, has snow all around it. I just look around me, and we're 15 miles out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I just had like almost a full panic attack to like fainting.
Yeah.
Because little known fact, I recently got my Jeep stuck in the last few months, probably 3 or 4 months. Well, that'll be another story for another day.
All right.
So I had experienced what it's like to be stuck. And I was like, oh my God, I'm with my family now, and I got us stuck, and we're in the snow, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and we don't have any service. I don't even know if we could get a hold of AAA at this point.
Yeah.
But this is where preparing your vehicle came in handy, because Sarah said, what about the snow chains? And so I was like, I don't know. So we cleared all the snow out around the car. It took us about 20 minutes or so.
And when you say us, do you mean you, or you mean like the kids were out there,
No, the kids stayed
with the snow.
Kids stayed in the car. The kids stayed in the car.
Right. Okay.
They don't really know what's going on.
Okay, sure.
Sarah's out there helping me. I'm underneath the car trying to get all this. And thankfully, it was fresh, like powder, fresh snow. So it wasn't hard to sweep it all out of the way. We got it as far as we could. I cleared what looked like a pathway to get back on the road, put the snow chains on there. Never had put snow chains on a vehicle at that point. And so I was like, okay, well, here we go. Let's put them on. Sarah got in the vehicle. I'm backing her up. We're like, okay, here we go. Just slow and steady. And sure enough, it just comes right back up on the road. And I felt like God had seen me, and God had personally put his touch on what happened, because I was so happy at that point. All I wanted was to be at a gas station on flat, dry pavements.
Sure. Yeah. Were you guys did you see anybody around? I mean, I know you're
There's no one.
There. Okay.
No one around.
I didn't know if it was like common enough that maybe like
So
somebody would trickle through or something, right? When you're
no, so it's not a through point at any stretch. And
okay.
so I'll put some pictures up on social or some videos or put some links to it because
Yeah.
I took some pictures so you could kind of understand what it is. And there's a picture of me digging it out and how
Okay.
happy I was afterwards. So I'll throw those up.
Yeah.
But all that
We'll
to
put them
say,
on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So we can see 'em.
all that to say
Yeah.
is I got my family stuck, but thankfully, and I will give props to Sarah because she was the one that said we have to get snow chains, and so big props to her.
Sure.
But man, I flipped out and so grateful that we actually prepared for that moment because we got back on the dry land. We're get back on the freeway, and I was the happiest person in the world just to be going down a freeway with no chance of running into snow.
So here's the question with that. 2, 1, worth it?
100% worth it.
Okay.
I would, yeah. It honestly, it was just looking back on it, it was just I had turned the wheel a little too much and wasn't aware that it was raised up, and so it just got stuck. It's one of those that I knew once we started to have a solution that this would be a really funny story. So I told Sarah, get your camera out. Like, I'm really like, we'll get through this moment, but I want to document it because it'll be a story that we'll tell to our kids, you know, remind them of that story. That one time we were in Wyoming and mom and dad said, let's go out in the middle of nowhere while it snowed.
Remember when you guys were on your tablets and you were playing that game?
Yes.
Like you were digging in the snow and that was a great time, Dad.
They don't remember that at all. They have hardly any memory of it.
Yeah. Okay. And the other part of that question is, so you guys got to go up there and see, did you see the marks like you had said?
No.
Okay.
So the whole funny part about that is I got all the way up to the parking lot and then I realized, oh, they mean like a real quarter-mile walk. And
so you guys got to go back there on the way back.
So I think we were going to try to go back and redeem ourselves because even if we would have made it to the parking lot, which would have been impossible with a two-wheel drive vehicle, even if we would have made it up there, we would have never walked to there because it's like you would never take your little kids in. It was probably up there in that little portion, I would say 6 to 8 inches of snow. You wouldn't have them walking that much for a quarter mile to like take a picture.
Yeah. Well, you guys are coming back in April? End of April?
We'll come back at the beginning of May. We'll come back in the beginning of May. So I don't think we'll run into snow. But so basically we got out of there. We ran into some other closed roads and shenanigans, which we should know going through Wyoming in the winter. There's this one pass that, you know, essentially just it's almost impossible to get through when there's snow on the ground. But because we stuck to doing 6 hours a day and had planned trips and planned hotels each night, we made up the time. Once it finally opened up, we still made up time, but that's why we lost so many of the points of interest, because the final 2 or 3 days we were driving for at least 12 hours to try to catch up. So it was literally just like bathroom breaks and stopping to grab food. And so we're able to make it because it was a work thing that I had to be at. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, we'll be late. It's like, no, I still need to be there on Monday morning on site, ready to go.
Yep.
And so, I mean, and that's the other thing is the last thing that I had was meals and snacks are such a huge thing. Especially when you're going on, again, this is the extended road trip. So as much fun it is sometimes to just like stop and grab some fast food and whatnot, I'm telling you, on like day 3 or 4, the last thing you ever want to look at is a burger and fries. And so we actually started literally stopping at, like, in LA, a Ralph's or a grocery store or a Reese's, or, you know, a Meijer out here. We would stop at those places and get their like ready to eat packets. So it would be like a sandwich or like these things. And it was so much better. Because we were like, you know, we're just going to take the time to stop at this place and get some something fresh. We had plenty of snacks, so plenty of like dry
Mhm.
snacks that you don't have to worry about like having a cooler or anything like that. But we started doing that, and that on this road trip was a huge success because one, it usually ends up saving you money.
Yeah.
But two, it's just you just stop eating like crap, you know, because you just like forget about any, and your body just like hates you for it, and
Yep.
just no one's happy about it.
Yeah, I get it. I did I mean, I haven't done many of these road trips with my family, but the drive from Kansas City to LA, I mean, I'm sure it's much like Oklahoma and back, right? It's
Yep.
similar. It's what, 27 hours, I think. So
Mhm.
and when I first moved out to LA, I did that drive. I think the drive from Kansas City to LA, there to out to LA 3 times in 3 months. And it was just so much driving at that point.
Mhm.
After all that, what happened is I went back right before our daughter was born, and we got a car from Kansas City. And so what I did is I flew back to Kansas City on my own
Mhm.
without the kids, and then drove back. And I thought, I'll try to do this trip in like 2 or 3 days, depending on how it is. And I basically planned my trip around like stopping at Subways. And the reason why I say Subway is because I have, our family, you guys don't have any food allergies, right?
Sarah does,
Okay.
but that's it.
Okay. So in our family, me being the the prize pig, I don't know how do you put this, me being the I don't know, the one that's got all the problems is me, and then everybody else has their own problems. So I don't know how you would label that, but I'm the problem child of the family.
Problem child sounds better.
Yeah, and I'm allergic to dairy, I'm allergic to nuts, I'm allergic to eggs now, but I'm the only one in my family that can have wheat. Everybody else
Yeah,
is all gluten free. So for me, Subway gave me a good option, and this is not a commercial for Subway. It's
sure.
just that was what I knew I
But
could
those
get.
things are important
Yeah.
because you need to know where they are, because even with Sarah's stuff, she doesn't have like a major reaction to like gluten, but
Hmm.
she feels awful, and it just really drags her down. And there's a few
Yeah.
other things that do the same thing.
And
And
you don't want to
so
be stuck in a car feeling like that.
yeah, because that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, we're in a car for almost an entire week. And so the last thing you want to do is just feel awful. And
Hmm.
so that's where she actually, purchased on, I think, Amazon or something ahead of time, all these dry snacks that were, specific to her diet and
Yep.
her regiment. And so then it made it easier for her, because it was like, oh, got this. Okay, cool. Then I'm good. I don't need to stop somewhere. But the other thing, which was really difficult on this trip for the first couple of days, is I'm still working.
Hmm.
I'm still technically producing the project as we're on these drives, and have conference calls and things that I need to arrange. And so I was planning ahead and calling and confirming that these people had Wi-Fi and that I could make calls out. I had led a conference call with our client on it, with a whole bunch of other vendors on it, in a
Hmm.
library in nowhere, Wyoming, because I knew that, no, it was in Nevada. So it was in Nevada because I remember they had a Nevada reading room, and they said that's the only place that we can close the door and it's quiet. And I said, great, I will be there in 3 hours, and I would like access to that room. And I spent an hour in there, and they were the nicest people. And sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what you got to do to make it work. But the
Right.
benefit was, then I get back in the car, I'm with all my whole family, and we're on a road trip,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's great. So I know for our experiences, it's a little bit different because we haven't done the big road trip so far, but we've done little stuff. We've done, theoretically LA to Vegas is like 3.5, 4 hours, depending on, how fast you drive, I guess. You could
yeah.
you could make it in 2.5 if you really wanted to. I don't condone that, but it's possible. But I will say, when Avery was younger, when he was, I can't remember. Oh yeah, he was little. It took us almost 6 hours to get home from Vegas one day.
Mm.
Now, keep in mind, sometimes it takes 6 hours to get home from Vegas anyway. Like if it's a Sunday
Sunday, yeah.
and everybody's heading back from Vegas playing or whatever, and they're going to come back to LA, it can be 6 hours anyway. And that's just,
Yep.
that is just people going from one place to the other and everybody's on the same road. But that being said, we made a lot of stops because, you know, he'd be fussy. This is when he was really small. I think it was before Grayson was born. We decided our family came in to stay in Vegas. So we thought, you know, we'll just drive over there and save us a few bucks. And, you know, we did. We drove there. Drive was fine. On the way back was just tough with the traffic and crying and fussing. So we pulled over a few different times. And, you know, I mean, you're on the Mojave Desert. So it's like, there's not a lot of great places to pull over and, like, you know, relax for a little bit.
Right. Right.
You get out and it's 120 degrees. I mean, it is so hot. So, especially, you know, it was summertime when we went. So, so yeah, I mean, that's, you know, one of our experiences when he was younger. And then just recently we went to Legoland, which is in Carlsbad. So it's essentially not quite San Diego. So it's like for LA to San Diego can be 2.5 hours, can be 2 hours. Again, all relative to what traffic you hit and don't hit.
Right.
So I want to say Carlsbad was probably anywhere from that hour and a half to maybe hour 45, maybe 2 hours kind of drive. And, you know, we were prepared for like a road trip. Like you guys do long road trips. You head back to Oklahoma, you do all this. We were like, we're going to make it, guys. We're going to 2-hour drive. We are going to do this. Now I do those all the time for work.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm an adult. I can function differently and I can put on a podcast or whatever and be fine. Yeah. So before we did what you did, we used the tips, right? We, well, one thing I always do, even when we fly, is like right when we fly, is I fill my phone up with different like Netflix shows, and I always make sure there's a big variety. And I don't rely on Wi-Fi. I download it. I make sure it's in there, and I make sure that there's some shows, there's some, you know, there's some cartoon, like little cartoons, there's some movies, there's games, like, because, you know, they're like, well, you downloaded that one movie. Like, I don't want to watch that one movie. And you're like, this is all I have.
Yes,
you know,
you
like,
have to have variety.
You have to like this movie. So yes. So I always try to have a lot of variety. And on this road trip, I actually tried to do some kid podcasts because I thought, well, how fun would this be? Now, I didn't get a chance to listen to all of them beforehand, which of course I would recommend if you get a chance. But it was a little crazy. And I mean, when is it not? When is it not crazy at my house? But it was a little crazy beforehand. I downloaded some podcasts. I thought there's a variety. Some were storytelling, some were facts, some were like, here's some cool science stuff. And I tried to find a good age range for them. And I will say the podcasts work in the fact that we put it on. My wife and I were like, oh, that's very interesting. I think it was a science one. Like, these are very interesting. I didn't know that. Did you know that? No, I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Next thing you know, the kids are asleep. I'm like, these podcasts are great. So yeah, I mean, that worked out for us. Getting down there was fine. Getting home was good because it was later at night. So for me at that point, we had done a whole day at Legoland, and then it was like, all right, let's drive home. And really, I think I was the only one that was awake driving home, which I'm totally okay with. I love when everybody can get some sleep, and because I know they're anxiety free. I know that's the thing that is tough for a lot of people on these road trips. For instance, my sister and her husband, they're coming out to LA, and her husband was raised with doing lots of road trips. You know, so that's ingrained in him and what they do. So they, you know, family is down in Wichita, so they're going to Kansas City, down to Wichita, Kansas City, Wichita. They're going back and forth. So they're pretty used to being in the car, which is great because their kids have, you know, grown up so far being used to being in the car for trips. This one will be a big one because, you know, it's at least 3 days, you know, relatively speaking, to get from Kansas City out to LA. Very excited to have them. But, you know, the anxiety that can happen from being in that car, not only for the kids, but for adults, whether it is traffic or, you know, the elements, like you're coming in with the snow, that I know my wife it would have been difficult for her to deal with the snow. I don't mind the snow. But another thing is, like, for instance, she can't drive at night. Like, my wife doesn't want to drive at night, so that creates anxiety for her when we're driving at night. So there's lots of things that could be happening on these road trips. So far, I'm thankful that our kids have done very well in the little bit that they have done. I am excited for the chance we get to drive, you know, back to Kansas City in the van with everybody, because I'm sure we'll have 4 kids by the time we get to do something like that. But yeah, I definitely want to share that the app. What was it?
Road Trippers.
Road Trippers. Yeah. I want to share Road Trippers with them because I'm actually really excited about that because my sister, I had the conversation with her about how, they've planned these things out, and it's almost like the exact conversation you just had where, I'm going, okay, well, that's a lot of stuff. And she's going, no, well, I at least have a plan. And that's one thing that like, I wouldn't think about before is if having the plan can ease that anxiety or ease that tension.
Yes.
That's great, because if you don't make the plan, that's fine. But at least you have like some groundwork laid.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Sarah created a whole schedule for the entire week. It's not minute by minute, but it's, hey, this is probably when we're going to leave. This is the point of interest that we want to see. And then here's lunch or whatever it is. But again, the key is that if we just started driving from the hotel to the next hotel that we had already booked, it's 6 hours of driving.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you got to build in some flexibility. With these extended road trips, it's not like your 2-day road trip where you're like, we're just going to buckle down and we're going to drive 12, 14 hours. We did that recently when we were coming back from Oklahoma over Christmas, because we were just tired of being in the car. So we just, I think we ended up driving 14 hours, 15 hours the final day to just be like, oh my God, we don't have to stop at this hotel. Can we just drive straight through? Like, I'm just so tired of being in the car. And we did that. But when you're planning to be in the car for, 5-6 days or whatever it is, like building in that flexibility will lower your anxiety, because you're not, if you miss one thing or you spend too much time at another thing, you're not screwing up your entire trip. You just might have to rearrange that day. It just might have to mean, hey, we had a great time at this one place. We're going to book it for the afternoon after lunch, and we're going to do a lot of driving, guys. But even then, we're stopping every 2 hours. I mean, it's like I don't take to the fact of like, no kids can have water and all that, or like anything to drink, because we're going to keep driving through. I mean, if my dad's listening, this is the opposite of the way that I was raised when it was road trips.
Sure.
My dad drove. We hardly stopped. It was a big deal to stop. And he was the only one to drive because my mom just could not handle driving for more than 45 minutes. But what we learned, this is our third road trip across the country. And so what we've learned is the 6-hour kind of rough framework is golden. And if you can stick to that, then I think that will help you really enjoy the trip, because that's the whole point. It's not necessarily about we're trying to get ultimately to this, and that's the only thing that matters, as quick as possible as we can get to this destination. It's about exploring and seeing things that you've never seen before, and being open to, oh, that sounds really cool, maybe we should go try that, or we've never seen this place. And so I highly recommend it. But definitely prepare. As many days as you prepare for a 1 or 2 day trip, you got to do, exit for however many days on top of that you do. And I think you'll be in great shape.
Yeah. I'm going to take some of that advice from you personally, because not personally like a negative. Like, I'm going to take that advice, because even just the thing of like getting the cars ready, like that is something that I go, okay, I got to do that. And then it's like, it's the day and you're about to leave and you're like, oh, yes. Should we get like an oil change in the morning before we go? Like, and we've done that. We did that with the van. It was like, I think I'm supposed to get, now I'm seeing a pattern as I'm saying it aloud, but like, with the van, we need to get the oil change. Okay, well, I guess we'll get it when we get back. Okay. Hope nothing happens. And I remember distinctly, I didn't get my brakes fixed before I drove from Kansas to LA. And like those first like couple weeks, I was here in LA and adjusting to like these giant hills and stuff. And I know my brakes are barely hanging on. And I'm like, I drove cross country and I should not be like, this is not okay. So it's like, I've been there. I've had to do the oil change like midway on the trip.
Sure.
Okay. All right, Steven, I hear you. I hear you saying prepare. I'm going to prepare.
Learn from my mistakes. Learn from things that we've gone through. And I would say this, if anybody that's listening, if you have done road trips and you like extended road trips and you have other tips or other things that you want to share, stories, I would love to hear them. We got to go back. We're in Detroit and we're going to have to take like a week coming back. And so any little tidbits that you could share. I know I would like to hear more from other people. And if you haven't and you're about to, or you're thinking about doing it, ask questions. Hit us up on social media. Again, we'll share a couple photos and videos of this road trip that we're on, and just ask questions. I'm happy to answer them as best as I can, and share anything that might be helpful. Because at the end of the day, it's great. You get to go with your family, you get to explore new things, and that's what we're about, right? I mean, we're about being with the family, and doing these adventures together.
Yeah, it's a daddy adventure trips, daddy adventure days. They're all like, each day as an adventure is a great thing to do with your kids. So, I mean, sharing those memories is so much more than like getting stuff or doing. I mean, like,
Yes.
sharing experiences is so vital and so important. So I love the fact that you guys are doing this. I hope I can wrangle my troop of children and get them. Why do I feel like I have so many more than you do? I don't. I feel like I can wrangle them.
It's
we'll
because
get
they're
them
younger.
together.
You really got to wrangle when they're that young. You really got to.
It's the herding cats thing. All right. So I love it. I think, I don't know if I'm ballsy enough to like get us to move across country yet, but I think I love that idea. And I think someday I want to try to find that crazy creep. What did you call that place? I heard White Mountain.
White Mountain petroglyphs. They're in Rock Springs, Wyoming. White Mountain petroglyphs. We'll put a link somewhere, maybe in the show notes or something, kind of show people where this is at. Again, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Only recommend it in the non-winter times.
Yeah, I'm also going to make sure I take my family to Comerica Park, which is located in Detroit, where the Tigers play Major League Baseball. Okay. Steven, thank you for sharing. I'm glad you guys made it out of the snow so you could have another episode of the podcast with us. Thank you for sharing. Guys, like Steven said, hit us up on the socials, Instagram, Facebook. We're now on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Spotify's not a social, but check us out. Give us some reviews, give us some likes, give us some subscribes. I have to share that because I want our podcast to grow. I want to be able to share more topics like this, more tips, and hopefully help some of you guys out there. So feel free to contact us and like, subscribe, do all the stuff. Right?
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.